Welcome to the official Bernando Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Erika Chamberlain, Bernando's oldest grandchild and manager for all aspects of Bernando's legacy. Bernando enjoyed a long and healthy life, living free of any chronic diseases, until the day he died at the age of 114 in Tempe, Arizona on December 19, 2015. Born the son of a doctor and herbalist in Victoria, Brazil on August 17, 1901, he had 4 different careers. As a 5-star chef, in the healing arts, he worked as a massage therapist, reflexologist, and podiatrist, a natural health consultant, and, in his hundreds, as an author and lecturer on the keys to his health and longevity. Bernando studied at La Sorbonne for the culinary arts in the 1920s, the Swedish Institute of Massage, and NYU in his 70s, the Robert Finance School of Hair and Makeup in his 80s, and as an herbologist well into his 90s. Noted for his smooth skin, dapper sartorial style, soothing voice, and sharp memory, he was a family man, the oldest living Yankees fan, and the oldest living Brazilian in the state of Arizona. Sought out by people from around the globe, he touched thousands of lives through radio, TV, and personal appearances, inspiring both young and old to add more life to their years instead of just years to their life. Listen, share, and be inspired. In this edition of the podcast, I'm sharing with you an interview I conducted with my grandfather, Bernando just 3 days before he made his great transition. This was recorded on December 16, 2015, in our living room in Tempe. For years, I'd heard about Grandpa going into the culinary arts, but this time I was inspired to dig deeper and ask him the details, going back to his childhood, pinpointing when his interest in cooking began to blossom, how he got into the Sorbonne, what his living arrangements were in Paris, what the course of study looked like during class time, his drive to be the best, his travel by sea, his transatlantic phone conversation he had with his daddy, and the plans he had to move back to Paris to live with his daughter, my late mother, Lee Chamberlain, who had established her Playwrights Inn project in Paris. Although my grandfather didn't eat steaks himself, as part of his training, he learned and practiced at home, after class. Who figured out what school for you to go to? Because you went to the Sorbonne. Was the Sorbonne a widely known culinary school at that time?
Yeah, that's right. My father told me that was the best school. And he said the best school for that, as I recall from conversation with various people of culinary art, everybody puts a stamp on Sorbonne in Paris. And of course, it stuck in your brain, that's why you want to go there. And I said, that's right. I want to be the best, or one of the best at least, which is true.
What was it like trying to apply to that school, actually, from the United States at the time? What did you have to go through?
They had a small branch in Philadelphia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know you didn't. I think there's a portion of it there still. Ask your brother. I think he told me. He said that's where it really started. In support of the United States was concerned, then they had different schools like they have now. But I'm trying to remember. Anyway, I do know this, that I got the wind of it, of the School of Culinary Art was in Paris, called Sorbonne. And they had a branch in Philadelphia at the time, a small branch, or somebody, a copycat or something of that nature, that tried to set up one in the States like they had there. But I think they had a problem in French chefs to teach, if I remember correctly. They had guys that went there and came out, but they didn't make enough money to teach the culinary art as they would if they was a chef. But anyway, there was a branch in Philadelphia at the time. Your brother knew about it, he told me.
Do you remember where that branch was? Maybe down around Wanamaker's or something?
It was beyond, I think it was in Swans. I'm trying to remember. But I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in the European version. Because this was only a branch
Right.
from Paris.
I was just curious. I mean, I guess you had to fill out some paperwork or do something. I mean, you just didn't show up in Paris on their doorstep
Oh,
with.
no, I had to, all that was all filled out. And I'll tell you who was there, very familiar with it was Margaret. She was Irish, but she was my father's housekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she had an uncle who went to Sorbonne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was my connection. I know that. I remember that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about it.
Ah, that's why she said, "Go ahead, professor,"
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, yeah. She she was interested in.
So when you went to Paris, did you take a boat there, or how did you get
Yeah,
there?
of course, by boat. Wasn't with planes.
Uh-huh. And it took you how long to get
Oh, I
there?
don't remember. I know it was a long time. See, to me, like, because I used to go out on the deck and look at the stars, and they were very interesting to me because you'd be surprised what the stars look like when you at sea. You go out and you look up, and you see nothing but a sky full of stars.
I've heard people say that before. But that's pretty interesting, actually, that there's two events that occurred here that did seal for many, many decades. Is that one, being attracted to food, and two, traveling to learn about the culinary arts by sea,
Yeah.
because then you were a seaman for many years,
Yep.
working in the kitchen and preparing foods and
Yep.
working on the steamliners, and
Yep.
that's pretty amazing.
Well,
So when you lived in Paris, did you have to live like in a dormitory or?
and then most of them were English speaking. Some of them spoke French
Mhm.
to practice. But I was not really interested. I was interested in knowing how to put it together in English. That was my. The guy said to me, "You think you're only going to cook in America?" I said, "No, not that." I said, "Well, it's too complicated." I said, "Trying to learn the language and maintain the ways of putting food together, getting the best results." I said, "I want to learn the language, but I think I'll learn enough to carry me through. Because I'm not going to cook in France. I'm going to be cooking in America."
I'm curious about your living situation when you were there. Did they?
Well, it was the school that we had. We called it the nomination dormitory. We had guys from everywhere, speak English, French, Spanish. All sometime you hear them all in the parlor talking. One speaks language, and another one speaks another language. And so I said to myself, "You better get yourself a book on languages so that you can learn." But I didn't stay that long. I would do maybe 2 months, and I'd get,
You mean stay too long where? In the dormitory or?
yeah,
Okay, so you moved out.
yeah.
So where did you move? Where did you live in Paris? You remember? What was your
I'm
situation?
trying to remember the name of the street. Oh my God!
Did you have your own room?
You're taking me, huh?
Did you have your own room?
Oh yeah.
Or like a little garret in an attic? One of
Yeah.
those little small French rooms?
That's what it was. That's exactly what it was.
Oh, they're so small you can barely change your mind.
You're all right, because Daddy would call me up and he said, "It's costing me money for you." I said, "Why, Daddy? You knew that before I got here." And he said, "Yeah, but."
Classic
Well,
parent-child conversation. It hasn't changed that much.
Well, see, telephones was rather new.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was quite a thing when it got to the place that you could call up from Paris to New York.
Wow, that's something else. Anyway, but
They had people that spoke English.
yeah, they had
and-
special operators and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but do you remember what neighborhood maybe you were in? Do you remember any sites? Because Paris, as you remember, is all divided up into different
Yeah.
sections, different
Yeah,
quarters.
Yes. Well, I tell you,
Maybe there was a park nearby that
if
was
I-
memorable.
if I were to go to Paris, and the reason I say that because later on, after I was here, I would go walk around and I would see certain things that I remembered. In fact, if I went there now, because I was talking to your mother about certain statues and things, she said, it's still there, Daddy. Nobody's going to be over here soon, and then you can visit all of it.
In this part of the conversation, we'll discover Bernardo's early mentors on his path of excellence in the culinary arts, beginning with his father, Dr. Bernando Lopalo Sr., who was an herbologist, and stressed to Bernando that all the nutrients were in the vegetables.
If you like something, Daddy put how should I put it? I said, he put it in my brain that all the goodness was in the vegetable. So why should you boil it and then throw it away? Don't make sense to me. Steam it. That's better. And I showed her. I said, here's a piece of string bean. Here's a piece of spinach. Let's put them in that. Let's put them in the pot there. Cover it over. Put just a little water and let it steam. See how it feels. Well, she said it's soft. I said, well, we don't have anything except the hand grinder. That's the way they didn't have the electric grinders then. And the next grinder, you put it in there, you turn it, and it had fine holes, and it had, it was round.
Oh, I know what those things are called. I can't remember what they're called right now, but yeah. I know it's like a food. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that was my explanation.
The second person that had a huge influence on Bernando and his interest in culinary arts was a gentleman named Jonah Williams, who was a patient of his father. Jonah would share tips with the young Bernando when the two would talk in his father's waiting room. Back in the kitchen, Bernando, who was about 10 or 12 at the time, would apply what he picked up from Jonah.
The reason I had that much know-how about it was I knew a fellow. His name was Jonah Williams, and he was a cook, but he cooked private family.
You knew him when you were a little boy?
I knew him when I was a kid, yeah.
Wow. When you were 12 also, or maybe younger?
Well, no, I was between 10 and 12. And the reason that we got into that one day, I said, I was telling my father I wanted to be a chef. And I said, any information that I can get from you would help me. I said, while I'm young, it'll stick to my brain. He smiled. He said, you're right. And we used to have a conversation about food, and invariably we were talking. And he said, well, what are we gonna? Oh, I know how to come about. He had a corn on his foot, and my father was taking it off, and he couldn't take it all off at one time. Mm-hmm. And when I see him, I talk with him. I go in the waiting room and talk with him. We get on food. That's how all this culinary art got lodged in my brain.
The third person to encourage Bernando on his path in the culinary arts was the family cook, Margaro. She would let Bernando watch as she prepared meals in the kitchen. Together, they would experiment with Bernando's ideas about techniques on cooking vegetables. Bernando used to grill Margaro on why she did this and why she did that. She replied, if you really want to know the technical reasons why, you should go to school. It was Margaro who gave Bernando the final push to apply to the Sorbonne for the culinary arts. You remembered asking her a question one time when you were about 12 or 13, and you said to her that Daddy says all the flavor or all the nutrients are in the vegetables. So why you're putting the string beans? She'd make like a vegetable mélange. She put beans, and would she layer other stuff in there?
Well, beans, whatever green vegetables.
Oh, whatever green vegetables. Yeah. Okay.
That's where the nutrients are in the colors of the vegetable. Yeah.
So you asked her, why are you pouring the water off? Yeah. Because you're pouring all the flavor down the sink.
That's right.
And she said, I don't know. That's a good question. So you got her to thinking about it, and maybe the next day or something, you guys tried a little experiment together in the kitchen. Uh-huh. And you said to her, why don't we try just putting a little bit of water in the pot and steam it and see how it comes out? Uh-huh. And so you did that, and she touched it and said, oh, it feels soft. Uh-huh. In other words, it's like edible. Yeah. And you did too, and so I guess perhaps Margaro changed her ways for cooking vegetables because of you?
She did. She did. She really did. Because it maintained its flavor. The season you put in, like, for instance, you're going to cook a collard green, and you put some salt in there. You didn't have to do that. All you have to do is steam it. Let all the goodness that God put in it, right there. Now you put it and blend it. I don't know.
It's a French word, actually.
Yeah.
No, it's a molineux.
Yeah.
It's a molineux.
You're absolutely right about that, because a lot of culinary names, French, comes to me once we start going over things. I remember that's what it was. Yeah.
Bernando was noticed by the principal of the Sorbonne for his remarkable talent in the culinary arts.
The guy, the principal, said to me, "You are, how do you put it? You have an exceptional way of defining things. In other words, getting the good out of the thing." And I said, "Well, maybe that's one of God's blessings, this sort of thing." And he said, "What a wonderful answer."
Do you remember what his name was? Oh, that would be great if we could remember his name.
It may come to me. Sometimes, you know, when it comes to me, I'll lay in bed and start crawling around. You'll stumble up on his name. I'm no use to try now.
Do you remember what he looked like?
Yeah.
What did he look like? Is that a curiosity?
Well, he was kind of pale, but he had dark hair.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing I noticed about it. His face was pale, but his hair was dark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, generally, pale face, hair is either your color or brown or something like that.
So it was a big contrast between his skin and his hair.
Yeah.
Made him probably look even paler. So you think he was a...
Nice man.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice man. Because I told him, I said, you know, some of these things that I'm being taught, I said, when I go home, I stop on the way and buy something, try it out. I said, for instance, I bought a piece of filet mignon. He said, a pizza? I said, yeah, I had to cut it. I said, he charged me all the way for it. I said, but I wanted to see what it looked like. And so I roasted it. I said, because one of the things we teach you is not medium rare or medium well. It's either it came by color pink or red. Pink was medium. Red was rare. Gray, well done. See, here that's medium rare. How do you want your steak? Medium rare. You don't just take it medium rare. It's medium.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's red. Pink or gray. If it's gray, you don't see the blood. If it's rare, it's pink. See all those things you get as you go along while you're studying. And after you start practicing, get to working, you experiment a lot of times. See, I'm going to cook this 20 minutes longer than I did before and see how it comes out. And you put it, you slice it, you see it's beautiful pink. Oh yeah, that's medium. So,
tell me again about this conversation with your dad. So your dad said, what do you want to be, or what do you want to do?
No, he said, this is the way he said it to me. Do you have any, he didn't use those same words, but do you have any inkling of what you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
I would love for you to be a doctor, he said. What do you feel like you want to be? I said, well, I'm going to tell you the truth, Daddy. I think I'd rather be a chef. So he said, well, long hours, standing on your feet and this, blah, blah, blah. So I said, yeah, I said, but these are a long life. According to what you tell me. You eat right, you don't get sick, you don't have to call the doctor to get you well. So he says, you remember that? I said, yeah. You get sick from what you eat. You either eat too much or too less, or the wrong thing. If you eat properly, you don't get sick, you don't have to pay the doctor to get you well. That's what you told me. He said, yes.
So then he slept on it.
Yeah. The next day, maybe 2 days, he said, no, I've been thinking about what you said. In reference to what you wanted to be, you decided definitely you don't want to be a doctor. I said, no, Dad, I don't think so. He said, you want to be a chef? I said, yes. He said, after sleeping on it, I think that's a very good idea. He said, because you are what you eat, and you're in a position to get the proper things put together to put into your stomach. And I said, what you mean? Well, he said, you have all the green vegetables and herbs to deal with. Being a chef, you learn how to put it together, and so forth and so on. And we discussed that a lot. The conversation, but I wanted to be a doctor. And so he says, you'll be a doctor of your intestines or something like words of that.
The doctor of your intestines.
Something of that nature. I don't remember if that's the exact word. But I know it meant that you're dealing, what you eat goes into your stomach through your intros, and the main intro is your cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty good size, he said. And when it goes in there, it doesn't have anything to push it out. It'll lay there, and as it dissolves, it'll come out in the form, he used the word mucus or something, word like that.
Stool, feces?
Stool, yes, stool, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, so if you put it in liquid form, he says, it dissolves, you get the results from it in 40 minutes after you eat it. Whereas if you eat it at night, go to bed on it, you're not exercise, it just lays there, packs together, and starts to rot. He says, and now the sign of that is when you break wind, that was the word he used. When you break wind, you get the smell, and that means it's halfway rotten, if not all the way.
Ah, that's a very interesting, well, I guess, people have bad digestion, and they have gas, and they have all those things. That's what it means.
It all comes from that food that's laying there and has rotted in your colon.
I hope you enjoyed the last recorded conversation I had with my grandfather. This conversation was actually the point of departure for this entire Bernando Lapallo Legacy podcast. It had been in my plan to get into more details about his life. In conclusion, as Bernando would say, keep your liver and your colon clean, and you'll live a long and healthy life.
We hope you enjoyed the official Bernando Lapallo Legacy podcast, produced by his granddaughter, Erika Chamberlain. You can find Bernando's books, videos, Facebook page, and legacy news by visiting www.agelesslivemorestore.com.